Hey guys, Dan here for BladeReviews.com with the Flash II from SOG. And I wanted to review this knife because it is kind of a special knife, because this is the knife that put video knife reviewer Nuttin Fancy on the map. This was his first review, was of a SOG Flash I, and that video has spawned countless other reviews and discussions on various knife forums about the merits of this knife, and it's just an interesting piece of, YouTube knife review history. So I definitely wanted to pick one of these up, and I've been carrying it for several months now, and I wanted to give my full standard kind of unbiased review, and so that's what I'm going to do today for you here. So let's start off by talking about what you might use this knife for. It is a bigger knife. It's got a 3.5-inch blade, an overall length of 8 inches, and a weight of 3.1 ounces. So despite it being lightweight, it is kind of large. I don't think it would make a great EDC knife for a lot of people, but if you could carry a bigger knife, it's certainly an option. The SOG Flash I might be a little bit more people-friendly and EDC-able. That said, there's nothing stopping you from carrying this knife, so do whatever you like. But I'm mainly looking at it from the standpoint of an emergency tactical or backup knife, something along those lines. And one thing right off the bat that merits discussion, and I know Nuttin Fancy talked about this extensively in his review, was that you really couldn't find much out here that packed this size blade and handle with a like 3-ounce weight. And that review was shot, I think, in 2008 or 2009, 3 or 4 years ago. And today there really still isn't anything out there. I mean, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I might have missed a couple new knives, but I'm looking at kind of the more popular versions, and really all I could think of was the Spyderco Endura, which has a blade that's got an extra 1/4 inch on it, but the knife weighs a full 1/2 ounce more. So, if you've got some very particular requirements in terms of size and weight, the SOG Flash II's kind of carved itself out a little niche there, so that's just something to consider. Anyhow, let's talk about the blade, which is made of Aus 8 steel. That's a Japanese stainless steel, a good mid-range steel, and I think given the price of this knife, which for me was around $40 shipped, I think it's a pretty good choice. Really, what else would you expect for a $40 knife? I think Aus 8's actually pretty good. I'm happy with it. So I like the steel, and I also like the blade shape. It's this nice standard drop point design. It's been given a simple full flat grind, and it's very nicely finished here with the satin finish. So what's there to say? I like it. You may not, but I think most people, they're not going to have anything to really disagree with about as far as the blade goes. The handle here is FRN, which is fiberglass reinforced nylon, just a fancy word for plastic. And the FRN on the Flash II is actually pretty nice. Many people have the Benchmade Griptilian, which also uses FRN, but if you feel the handle scales on the Griptilian, they're kind of cheap. It's really thin FRN. I've never heard of it breaking under normal use, but it doesn't necessarily inspire confidence. The Flash II actually has pretty thick FRN handles here, and I like that. It feels pretty substantial. As far as plastic handled knives go, I'd say it's about as good as it gets. So I don't mind the FRN here, and I kind of like it. And the nice thing, I guess, about the FRN is it's enabled SOG to go linerless with this knife. That's what keeps this knife so light, and I think it's a decent trade-off if you're really looking for that weight. If weight's important, it's got to give somewhere. So SOG was able to make a pretty good size handle and still keep the knife light. And I like the ergonomics too on here. They've got 2 choils and a pretty nice thumb ramp, and it works. It works pretty well. The thumb ramp, I guess, could use a little more jimping or something, but it's not too bad. And you could do reverse grip pretty comfortably too. I'd say it's a pretty good handle overall. I like the ergonomics, and I like the pocket clip. I'm not, a super deep clip guy for the most part, but I won't turn one down. And it's got good retention. It's swappable. It's kind of goofy looking. It's SOG. It's their kind of signature look. So, it is what it is. It works. And I'm happy that it was reversible. So, no real complaints with the pocket clip. Deployment here is, of course, done through 2 thumb studs. And this is an assisted opening knife, so it comes out pretty fast. I like the assisted opening on this if we're going to use this as an emergency tactical. I think any time that you can make it a little bit easier to get this knife open under stress is good. So, assisted openings they're a preference, and on this knife I don't mind it. The lock it's almost like a bolt lock here, and it's pretty good. Honestly, I've noticed some side-to-side play, which is really my only complaint with this knife. It's not a lot of play, but it's definitely in there, and for some that'll be a major turnoff. Considering how this knife is built, the price, the weight, the assisted opening, all that stuff, I'm willing to let a little bit of side-to-side play slide here. If there was up and down play, then that would lead me to believe that the lock might fail, and of course that would be totally unacceptable because that's just not safe. But a little side-to-side play, for most of the things you're going to use this knife for, I think it'll be alright. But of course that's a decision that you need to make if you're really going to buy the knife or not. Aside from that, I really couldn't find any major faults. Part of it's going to be personal preference, I think. If you like the look of this knife, if you like the weight, then, this could be the knife for you. But for others, there's other knives that they'd rather spend their money on, and I think that's fine. And that's part of what makes collecting knives and stuff interesting, is you've got these kinds of options out here. And I like how SOG has kind of gone, marching to the beat of their own drum, and they're just doing their own thing, and I can respect that. So, all in all, the Flash II gets high marks from me. I like it. So, why don't you post a comment and let me know what you think of the knife if you're not tired of discussing the merits of the Flash II, and maybe we can have the history of debating about the Flash II continue here. So, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll be back soon with another knife review. Thanks again.